Hi folks, and welcome to Mastering in the Box. In today's video we're going to discuss loudness levels and how loud our track should be for streaming platforms. Hi folks, and welcome to Mastering in the Box. I'm your host Smudge, and in today's video we're going to be discussing loudness levels and how loud our track should be for the streaming platforms. But before we get into today's contents, if you want to know more about digital mastering, then make sure you hit that subscribe button below and make sure you tick that bell and select all to receive notifications on all of our videos moving forward. And if you want to support the channel, you can support the channel through buymeacoffee.com, whether it's by buying me a coffee or joining the membership scheme. Any support will be greatly appreciated, and all funds raised will be going straight back into Mastering in the Box. So let's get into today's video. So let's get into loudness levels, and this is probably my number one most frustrating topic going, which is loudness levels, and I see it all over the place on part of many different Facebook groups and social media platforms, and I just see it everywhere. And a question will come in from someone saying, I'm mastering my track, how loud does my track need to be? And there's two trains of thought, and the responses range from minus 14 LUFS, minus 14 LUFS, minus 14 LUFS integrated, or Spotify normalises audio at minus 14 LUFS integrated. And then you get complete polar opposite, which is minus 6 LUFS, minus 6 LUFS. Well, such and such masters to minus 6 LUFS, so I'm going to master all my music to minus 6 LUFS. And it's so frustrating because, quite frankly, it's just bonkers. There is so much range and variance in between, but people either go minus 14 LUFS or minus 6 LUFS. There's loads of space in the middle, and we need to really understand some of the basics before we can answer the question, how loud should my track be? So when it comes to loudness, we just need to understand some of the loudness standards in place, which are the EBU R128, which is a loudness standard for Europe, and the ITU RBS 1770 loudness standard, which is for America. And the whole reason behind these loudness standards is in essence to ensure we get a consistent loudness levels for our broadcasting channels. So we're talking radio, TV, film, etc., adverts. And the reason why these were implemented is because all the different advertisers, the TV companies, etc., were trying to compete with each other and turning the levels up so that they sounded louder and people would perceive them to be better. And it was just causing all sorts of problems, and in the end we had to have a loudness standard for those broadcast channels to ensure that there was fair competition amongst all. Now, whilst the loudness standards do consider music, it's not statute, it's not law, and it's not clearly defined in regulation that you must adhere to a certain loudness level. Now, loudness normalisation is modern day practice for streaming platforms, and it's designed to ensure that all music played through a streaming platform is played at a relatively consistent level. That's it, there's no law, there's no statute, and you can even turn that loudness normalisation off in your streaming platform of choice. So when I hear people say, well, minus 14 LUFS, minus 14 LUFS, it does not have to be minus 14 LUFS as a target figure, and I'm just going to explain to you why. So the first consideration we need to look at here is, my recommendation is to master your tracks to at least minus 14 LUFS integrated. At least are the most optimum words here. And the reason I'm saying this, because if you master your tracks to quieter or less than minus 14 LUFS integrated, the streaming platforms will turn the tracks up. And Spotify, for example, do that by limiting. And a limiter in its most simplest form is a compressor. And if you spend all that time and energy ensuring that your track has the most optimum dynamic range, what you then don't want is the streaming platforms to affect that dynamic range by using a limiter, applying compression, and it's going to affect the end result of the track, which you didn't aim for. That was not your goal. So that is why I always recommend, if you master to at least minus 14 LUFS integrated, then you are in control of the dynamic range of that track, and you know it's not going to be affected by limiting from the streaming platforms. So a second consideration that we need to look at here is We do not need to be the regulators of the loudness normalization. We do not need to do that. That is what the streaming platforms will do, because they will have their own algorithms and their own way of doing it to optimize the songs for their platforms. So don't think of -14 LUFS integrate as a target figure. It is not a target figure. It is not in statute. It is not a legal requirement to stick to -14 LUFS integrated. You master your track to the loudest level that you want to master it to, but just note that if it's louder than -14 LUFS integrated, the streaming platform will turn it down if it applies the loudness normalization to ensure a consistent level amongst all of the songs that are available on that platform. It is not a target figure. So let's now take a look at the polar opposites, and when I hear comments such as, well, I master to -6 LUFS because such and such masters their tracks to -6 LUFS, that to me is just absolutely bonkers. Because let's face it, all music is different. No one song is going to be the same as any other song. Yes, you have genres, and yes, you have sounds that may sound similar, but they're not going to be the same. They're all going to have different tones. They're all going to have different frequency ranges, or different frequency considerations we need to look at. They're all going to have different dynamic range that we need to consider as well. So just because someone else masters their track to -6 LUFS doesn't mean you have to follow suit. Now, admittedly, some genres may benefit, such as R&B, hip hop, or EDM if you're played in a club, but there's no hard and fast rules here. And the other thing I want you to consider is to get a track to -6 LUFS, you will have to boost the limiter so hard. Even if you stack limiters and use loudness normalization, you will still have to apply a lot of dynamic range compression through a limiter to ensure that you are achieving -6 LUFS. So if you want your track to sound dynamic and have more life and energy and be more exciting, then don't just master to -6 LUFS because someone else has mastered to -6 LUFS. Master to the level that you think your song sounds comfortable to. And just note that if it's louder, the streaming platforms will turn it down. Now I can already hear some of you saying, well, what happens if such and such turns off loudness normalization? Or a lot of my friends turn off loudness normalization. I did a poll recently on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and out of all of the people that responded, only 25% actually knew what loudness normalization was and how to turn it off on their streaming platform of choice. Which means 75% of people did not care about loudness normalization, they did not care about turning it off, and they did not care that a track was louder or quieter than others. They just wanted a good listening experience. So don't just boost the hell out of it for the sake of it, because you will squash the heck out your track. It'll be boring, lifeless, with no excitement or dynamic range, but master it to a level that you feel comfortable with. So I can already hear you saying, well, Smudge, you're saying don't master to -6, you're saying don't master to -14. So what the heck should I master to? And the answer is, it differs. I don't believe in having a target loudness level, because it doesn't work. That is the reality of the situation. Each song has its own merits, each song has its own sound, each artist will sound completely different to others. So target levels do not work, quite simply. Master the track to the loudness that you think sounds good for your song. That is as simple as that. My one recommendation is to get it to at least -14 LUFS integrated, but don't stop. Keep going, get the song as loud as you feel comfortable in doing so, and listen for changes in the actual track itself. If it starts to lose energy, if you can hear the dynamic range being squashed, and if it just loses life, then you've gone too far and you've turned it up too much and you've overcompressed. Back it off at that rate. And maybe start to getting around, get the loudness up to say -13 LUFS integrated before you do your processing. I personally like to get the loudness into my track first before I do any processing, so I know the loudness of the track before I do anything else. I can then hear and look to consider at that point whether it needs additional compression or not. Am I happy with the compression I'm getting for the limiter? If it's too much compression, maybe think about stacking limiters. Spread the load over 2 limiters rather than just boosting the heck out of one limiter and over compressing. It sounds horrible. Use 2 limiters and share the load. You'll get less compression and you'll be able to achieve a greater loudness without ruining the song. So I don't believe in target levels. If I was to think about this in a general term, I would probably fall somewhere between -9 and -13 LUFS integrated. But each song is different. Each song has its own merits. I don't aim for a target level. Just get the song sound as loud as you want it to, and just know that if it's louder than -14, the streaming platforms will turn it down, and if it's quieter than -14, they will turn it up, but they will use a limiter to get there, and they may affect your dynamic range of your track. So that's it for this week's video / rant, and my key takeaway here is don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. Don't worry about, certain genres have to be at this loudness or certain songs have to be at this because such and such has done this. Do what you want to do, what feels comfortable with you. Use your own ears to be your own guide. And that is the key takeaway here is don't look at the screen, don't look at the numbers, use your ears. How comfortable do you feel in pushing your loudness to a certain level? And if you think it sounds good, do it. Don't worry about it. And as I say, just aim for at least -14 LUFS as a minimum, and then everything else will fall into place. So don't stress it, and have great fun making and mastering music. I hope you found this video useful. It's certainly something that I've needed to get off my chest because I see it all so often, and it's just bad advice. Just do what you feel comfortable with. And before I head off and have a very strong beer, if you want to know more about digital mastering, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and make sure you tip that bell and select all to receive notifications on all of our videos. And if you want to support the channel, there'll be links in the description down below of where you can support the channel through buymeacoffee.com. If you have any questions, please leave me some questions in the comment section down below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and if you've got any concerns or queries regards loudness, then please let me know, because I'd rather be able to support you and help you, give you the correct information, than because someone on some random forum somewhere has heard from their uncle's cat's friend's brother's guinea pig that -14 LUFS is the immortal loudness level, otherwise you'll be struck by lightning or spontaneously combust in the middle of your mastering process. Anyway, all that's left for me to say is I hope you all keep safe and well, and I'll see you in the next video coming real soon.